Hi everyone, my name's Lou Sims and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, love it if you subscribed, hit the notification buttons, drop me a comment and like the video. All the things that YouTube loves us all to do now. Right, this month is our collaboration YouTube hop with the Crafting Together with All Brands. But this one is a little bit different. We wanted to do something that celebrated everything handmade, whether that was card making, 3D, MDF, art journal, in mixed media projects, you name it. We wanted to celebrate everything handmade. And it was important to us that it could be gift giving, it could be anything, but more importantly, it was all about thoroughly enjoying making everything. So, I think I've waffled a bit about that, but there's a lot more detail about it in the description box below. And if you pop over to the Crafting Together All Brands Facebook group, and I'll link that below, you'll get an idea, because we're running this event for the whole of the week. So there's going to be lots of different inspiration going on. Right, on to my project. Right, it's a mishmash. Now, I wanted to do something that we could all do together. Yes, there may be pieces that you don't have, but it was a project idea anyhow. But so what I've got here is I've got a selection of papers that I designed under the Shady Designs umbrella, and I'm using those in my project. The other thing I'm using is card from hardback envelopes. Now, this could be cereal boxes. It could be anything like that. I keep these because they're great for construction projects. And we're going to be using those. And what we're going to do is, we're going to create a handmade storage idea. That could be a piece of home decor, but also be a great way to house even handmade gifts and things like that to go inside it. So I'm going to move things to side. I have prepped a lot of this, but I will explain the different stages I've gone through, only because there were some drying elements, drying time elements needed. And there's only so much you can see someone waft a heat gun around, I'm being honest. So what I did was I took the different envelopes, the card envelopes, and they're a mixture, and I cut them up to different sizes. So some I've cut lengthways like this, some are smaller bits that have been left over for projects, and I've teamed them up with the Dolly Dimples Living Hinge. Now, the Living Hinge die gives you the perfect curve, and the die has been designed that it will create that curve, but through thicker substrates, it doesn't cut all the way through. And the main reason Charmaine developed it like that and tested it like that was that it then didn't lose the integrity of the actual project. So by not cutting all the way through, it kept the strength in our substrates. So I've got some pieces here to show you. I'm going to say now I will do any die cutting off camera. The only reason is by the time I put my die cutting machine and got it all leveled up here, it would be right up here, and I wouldn't be able to show you clearly what I was doing. But it's not for any secret trickery or anything like that. So I'm going to start with these two pieces. So as I said, I created a whole different host of sizes of cardboard, and that'll be, when you see what I've done as I bring them in, you'll understand why I said I've done lots of different sizes for it. So I'm going to be using the Living Hinge first, but I created my templates, my idea. I'm going to say now regarding measurements, I'm dreadful for measurements. I eyeball a lot of things that I want to do. I flip through measurements as well, so depending on the tool I'm using, I could go from inches 1 minute to centimeters the next. So I apologize in that respect, but the idea of the project is you use what you have to make, and decide yourself, sort of thing, what you want the measurements to do. Right, all I'm going to do for this part here is I'm just finding the center, which is around 11, and I just want to make a mark on here. So I've got that there. And I'm going to put a mark on the very, very top of the board as well. And that's just to help me line up the die, and I'll explain in a minute. I'm going to do exactly the same on this piece because I'm going to cut them both in a different way. And this one, oh, this is typical, isn't it? Not 20, oh, so it's 11.1. This is why I'm dreadful from measurements, because then I go, oh, sort of thing. I've got to think about it. So I've got, that's roughly my halfway point. So let's just put that ruler back for the moment. And I'm going to die cut these, but I'll do them one at a time so I can show you what I'm doing. So now this is where I'm going to take the living hinge. So the living hinge, you don't have to cut it, you know, all the full length. You can take smaller projects. Saying that though, if I wanted to, where's my A4 piece? If I wanted to use it along an A4 piece and just keep repeating it, I could easily do that as well and cut the project down. It doesn't lose the strength or the integrity in the special weave effect that the living die gives you. Right, on my die, what I've done, I'm going to lift it up so you can see, is I found the halfway point, and then using a permanent pen, I've just drawn a line. This just helps me for some of the projects I want to do. I'm just going to put a bit of tape on here for the dies straight away. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up that line there with the line that I created. And then I'm going to slide it up. And then because I created that line at the top, I'm hoping the camera picks it up. I've got 1001 lights on. Because it's got that line there, I know that now is the halfway point. Right, so I'm just going to stick that down in place. And there we go. Now, the thing with when you're using recycled cardboard, it's a little bit more fibrous than our normal substrates, so it's a little bit trickier. Now, I can put the die this way and it will just cut through. I can put the die that way. If you're going to do the die where it takes, you know, you're going to put it across the length of your plate, that's fine. But the only thing I would say is when you hit you'll feel in your machine when it hits the resistance, just then go a little bit slower going through. I'm going to put mine this way. Well, I'm hoping I am. I'm using a Tangerine and I should be able to get it through. And I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. So I'm just going to quickly pop off and do that. Right, so we've got that. Ooh, there we go. So we've got that there. Hold on, let's take that tape. So what the living hinge die does is it creates those lines that then when you go round, you get that beautiful circle. And it works, you know, it works beautifully as you go to create that circle bit, whether it's for a book, box or anything like that. But it doesn't cut all the way through, especially on thicker card. And that then means that the integrity of the card is still there, but we still get all the flexibility. Now I'm going to be working with mine, so the living hinge part is on the inside, which means then the outside of my project hasn't got any dents or marks on it. And that was, you know, that's important for the project we're doing today. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. Now, with the second one, what I want to do with the living hinge die is I'm using the line and I'm going to go up and stick it down, and I'm going to do a double cut. So I will cut it this side. I'm then going to move the die over to the opposite side and cut it that way. So I'll just do that now and I'll bring it back into shot. Right, so I've cut this twice. I'm just going to take it away and get rid of that tape. So now I've done a double cut, which means now I can create a bigger opening. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly massage my card, because I've asked it to cut it twice. And now I've created a much bigger curve with it, whether I do it on the inside or the outside. Right, so I've done both of those, and you know, I'm just going to slowly massage this card around here. And so they're going to create my different projects. Doesn't matter which way round I use it, but that's given me the actual curve that I wanted. Now, what I then did was I then covered the opposite side with paper. So I've got one done to show you. So I covered it with the backing paper I wanted, and then I actually painted the inside with a Deco Art metallic paint. I went for a teal because of the papers I'm going for. And then that just means I can use this and it's all ready to go. Now, I'm going to show you a bit of a boo-boo I made. I placed the die when I was cutting this next to each other, okay? And then it just kept, it worked beautifully. So I could make it, oh, look, I didn't think of that. I could make it that sort of shape. But what I did when I did it the first time on here was I actually overlapped the die. And as you can see, by overlapping it, I caused a double cut. And that has ruined this strength. On the outside, it wouldn't curve. But because I did it the opposite way round and doing the living hinge, you know, on the inside, I could still have used this for my project quite easily. I just didn't want to do that, but I just wanted to show you that if you want to create more than one cut, put the die next to, you know, next to each other. Don't overlap those cut pieces, because it will, you know, ruin that. So I'm glad I can show you that sort of thing, because rather than pretend, you know, everything goes okay and we re-die cut it and everything like that. But this was a perfect example that where I overlapped, rather than me thinking, oh, that would be work and it would give a perfect curve. It didn't. It just did a double cut, and then it ruined it as such. Whereas this kept the smoothness going. Right. I'm going to work on this one, but I would do exactly the same on the other one, but just to show you what I did. So as I said, so I covered them all with paper. I painted them all on the inside and left them all to dry properly. So we're going to pretend that I've done that on this one. So then it came to measuring everything out. I'm just putting bits of paper away. So what I actually did for this was, I'd like to say I did measurements, and I didn't. I used a scoreboard. And I'm actually going to put it on the centimetre side. And I took a scoreboard and an embossing tool, and all I did was, on this side, I just scored down a centimetre. Let's just move that piece of excess from the envelope. Okay, so I scored a centimetre down. I'm just double checking that I was still in shot in the camera, because I made the mistake of sitting down. Turned it over and scored it. You might need to do it a couple of times, especially when you've got your paper and your paint on. So we scored it down two sides, and then it doesn't matter which side you chose. I did the side that I had my marking on, where the pen was, just so, because I'm going to be cutting that away, and then I didn't have to worry. So then I'm just going to score down here a centimetre as well, across the hinge and down. Well, I would do if I kept the embossing tool in the correct channel. And turn it over and just redo the scores. There we go. And that was literally my measurements. That's just what I thought would worked for the gluing part. Right. Next, I'm just going to mark on with a pen so I can show you. All I did is, I can see where the living hinge edges started. So I'm just going to do a chamfer cut that way and one that way. So on my die here, I can see that's where the die bit part was. So I'm using those lines. I've got the square part that comes over here. So I'm just going to do another chamfer cut there and one here. And I'm going to repeat it on this side and this side. So I'm going to cut, and then I am actually going to cut across here. This will not affect the strength of your living hinge at all, which, you know, quite cool. Let's just move my tape and everything, and let's grab some scissors. So cut there and there, and this is giving me tabs for my gluing. I'm just going to go across here. Oh, I love that chomp noise. Cut that one. Cut across there and there. Just put them in the bin. Love this little bit as well because it still curves. It's like, oh, cool. So this has now left me with my shape here. And all I'm going to do then is I'm just going to take these parts here and, you know, fold them over. Now, obviously this, once you've got your paper and your paint on, it's a little bit stiffer. So, you know, go a little bit slower with everything. I could have done that piece actually just to show you, but okay, so we've got that there like that. And I'm just going to, so mine bends and creases, but I don't mind. I want that sort of look. So as I said, sometimes with some of the recycled card you use is a little bit more fibrous, but that gives you a really cool texture. But as we've covered this with paper, and when I show you the finished ones, you'll see what I mean. Well, what I'll do is I'll quickly crease the one that I did do so you can see what I mean. It doesn't matter. So I've got them there. Let's quickly just grab this one. Oh. Because I don't want people thinking, oh. So this is the one that I did the paint and paper on. As I said, so I would go down my centimetre. Go down. Okay. I'll just move you. And like I said, this now is a little bit stiffer. So I had to just bend it a little bit more because of all those layers. And then, you know, burnish it, crease it. So on the outside, you didn't notice the tears that I've got, but on the inside, you can see where the cardboard, but that doesn't matter because obviously that's tucked away on the inside. Okay, let's file you. Now, so this now is going to create my shape. And so these are going to be gluing portions. This is also going to be a gluing portion. And what I need to do is I want to create a base and a back. Because we're going to make, well, I wonder if you've guessed already by our thing. Do you know, I think you probably have. And I think I did a photo at the beginning anyhow. But never mind. So what I'm going to do is I just want to create the base. So I'm just going to push this in here. And I'm using my mat to work out how big a strip of cardboard I need. So apologies if my head gets in the way. And I'm looking that I need a strip that's about 3/4 of an inch. This is what I mean. This is done in inches, and I'll do flip from centimetres. So 3/4. I'm just going to, and I will need 2 strips of the same width. Now the length is going to be a little bit different, but we just need the strips. Now I would do exactly the same with the larger one. So I would take my card, I would line it up and work out what the width was and cut 2 strips to there. I think it's, yeah, it's about 1.5 inches. Right. So then I'm working with this on the inside, not the outside, because my decorative papers. And I'm just going to get the piece. I'm going to try and do this centrally on the camera, but I will lift it up as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the piece of card. I'm going to slide it underneath where the living hinge part goes, so a little bit of it sticks out. And then I'm just going to tuck those 2 flaps inside and pretend I've glued them in place. So it now looks like a tunnel like that. And I'm just going to grab a pen and I'm just going to follow. Well, if I push the piece of card all the way through would be a good idea. Okay. I'm then going to take a pen and I'm just following where the living hinge part is, the curve part. And that gives me an idea of what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to cut that halfway and then I can fold it over. And then I know I've got the same curve the opposite side. Okay. So I'm going to use a little bit of red liner tape, not to keep everything in place, but I'm only using the red liner to give me the an initial sticking down and until the glue goes off. Put that one there. That there. So I prefer to use wet glue, but I just want to use, as I said, the red liner is just my it just gives it a chance for, you know, to stick in place, and then the glue does its thing and everything becomes a lot stronger. It wouldn't be just strong enough with just the red liner. So I'm just going to burnish that red liner down. Okay, so I know this is going to be where my living hinge goes, and I'm just working out where the end of this is to see if it's about the same place. And I'm making a mark. So that's where the end point is. So it's just creating my base area. I did have a pokey tool out, but I can't see it for looking. I'll just use my craft knife carefully. I'm going to take the red liner off. Now, use a good strong PVA, gel medium, Mod Podge, that sort of thing. Personally, to hold it in place, I'm using a heavyweight glue. That's meant, you know, that has a bit of a fast grab as well, so it'll hold it in place. And I'm just going to get these bits here and I'm tucking them under. Now I'm trying to show in the camera if I lift it up. So what I'm doing is I'm taking those bits and I'm tucking them under, and I'm going to put that little piece of cardboard on top. So that I put one in place and then I slide the other under and I can push it over to the top. And I'm just going to take my bone folder and just very gently make sure everything's in place, and then I can turn it over and you can see I would pin these down and move them. I didn't do that base very well. Oh, that's why I haven't lined it up. I'm thinking that doesn't look very neat. So we've got that there, and just for a minute 30 seconds I just rub along the bottom, oh sorry about that, with my bone folder, just so I've got the initial tacking down in place. I've got that there. I'm just making sure the glue is squidged everywhere. And now I've got a base along here to hold it in, you know, in place along that way. Now, this is going to be my back panel. And this is where my other strip comes in, and I'm going to rest it along there. And I'm just going to, so it sits on top. And all I'm doing now is just working out where it ends and making a mark and cutting that. If you want them over straight, you know, cut them in on your guillotine or, you know, trimmer, craft knife and ruler. So I'm going to take the red liner off. And I'm being careful because I'm using a craft knife rather than a pokey tool. And again, I'm just going to put some glue on. The red liner tape is just going to give me the initial grab to keep things in place. But the glue is really going to be the thing that keeps, bonds it all together. And this is the strip, doesn't matter which side because we're going to cover it eventually. I go back in and repaint these once I've got them in place and they're dry. So we've got that there. And I'm just lining everything up. And you're not going to see because I'm just going to push it down and just take my bone folder and just go inside just to make the initial grab. And then you can put pins on there, clips. So I had smaller clips like this that I can put on, and then the tails can go down and hold in place for me. So, and that is going to make our little container. And it's got that shape. So in my head, I thought these could be like pretend books, she says. Right, I'm just moving the stuff I don't need now out of the way for the moment, so I can show you the next part. Okay, just put you guys over there, and I might need you. So going forward, what did that mean? Right, what I did was, let's grab you. So I did exactly that, and as I said, I started with different size cards. So these are these ones here. You can see they're covered on the outside. Done the strips. I've painted them on the inside. You'll get better colour. So you can see where I did the painting. And then I went back in and just painted the sides and the bottom. So we've got here, I'm not worried that paper didn't get all the way round because we're going to sort that out in a minute. And I just use, like you can see, different heights, different strips. So this was using the living hinge, so it went twice, and these were using the living hinge, so they went once. And they then look like that, so they stack like, oh sorry, you're not in camera, they look and stack like that. So from the front they'll have that sort of appearance. So it's a take on doing like a book. So I could put panels on there. You could even use book titles, book covers, people's names, and go to town. I quite like them just being like this for the moment. And that's how I made them all. The only thing I have done is I've gone over with a copper pen along the top there just to neaten the edges. And I've done a bit around the bottom. I am going to bring in some wax, I think, and just bring it down a little bit. But at the time, I wasn't quite sure if that's what I wanted to do. But I also didn't want to waste my wax. I was being a little bit tight. So where these two go together, I just only need a small amount of wax on that edge there. And the same with this edge, and then I can go slightly longer. So they're going to go together like that. So we're going to put a little bit of wax top and bottom. And then what I did was I took all of these like this. I mean, then they've got to be glued together and kept straight together, which they're not at the moment. And putting it on my glass mat here, I could actually see the measurements of what I needed for my next piece of card. So I just cut out a piece of card that is about 1/4 of an inch longer this way, and the same here. So I looked at this and went about 1/4, half an inch, and cut it out. So I covered it with one of the paper designs that I've been using, but on the reverse I've put a layer of, this is funky foam, or however you call it, foam, the soft foam that you get. It's inexpensive in a lot of shops. You could use felt instead. I just wanted something as a softer base for everything to sit on. I don't know why, I don't know. I just thought it would finish it a little bit better. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. So I've got my base here, and I'm going to wax these up. And then these are going to sit on here like so. So we've got them on there. I will lift, once they're all glued in place, I can lift it up and show you. So they're going to sit there like that. And then we can start adding a little bit more decoration and everything like that. I'm going to see if I can lift it up and hold them in place. So where they're like that on the board, obviously they're sliding. So the next step is to just do a little bit of wax on the edges down here. And I'm going to use, I couldn't decide. I'm dreadful for this. So I grabbed 3. I didn't know whether I wanted the green, but I think I might stick to the coppery tones that are on here. I think I'm going to go for the burnished. So I'm going to just go and add a little bit of wax down the side and along the bottom, just a tiny little bit. The back we're going to be covering in a different way, which I'll explain. And then I'll be back and we can stick everything in place. Okay, right, I've got everything that I wanted to, you know, with a little bit of gilding. I didn't want to go for a particularly Christmas idea. I just wanted to go for something that, you know, was a little bit everyday, as it were. Now the back panels I'm going to leave at the moment because I'm going to cover them, but I haven't decided whether I'm going to paint them to match the inside or cover them with a little bit of paper. So that's why I've left the back panels. I couldn't decide there as yet. So I'm going to roughly work out my design, you know, where I want these to go. You could go high order, you know, you can mix them. So that's roughly high order. You could mix them up, you know, have a bigger, small, and go, you know, like that. You know, the choice is completely yours. Oh, I could go small and too bigger at there. Oh, let's have a look. Quite like that as well. No, I could break it up a bit. And see, this now is where I had an idea in my head, and now I'm faffing like mad thinking, I quite like that. So I'm just going to tip them up so you can see what I'm thinking in my head that it could look like. Let's just swap those around. And yeah, I quite like it like that. Okay, right, so I'm going to move those ones away, and this is the one that I'm going to work with first. So I'm just going to, where did I put it? I'm just going to grab a piece of my temporary tape that I would use for die cutting. I'm just going to swizzle this round and just pull this forward, and I'm just going to just stick the tape there, and that's so I know that's going to be my starting point, that I'm going to line, you know, everything up as it were. Right, I'm just going to grab a ruler, and I'm going to use my craft. I'm going to use my knife. You could use your embossing tool. The only thing is I've just put my embossing tool away, and I want to have a little bit of a lip down the back here, a little bit of a decorative bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and very, very lightly, I'll lift it up. I'm not sure you'll be able to see, but I'll lift it up. I've created a very, very faint score lining that I can work up to, but won't really show once everything, she says, fingers crossed, has been stuck in, you know, stuck in place, as it were. Right, so I'm going to then, I know that one was the first one, and I'm going to get it, and I'm just going to just going to put a really good dollop of glue. So I'm doing it off camera for no other reason than habit. Right, okay, let's put some really good glue on there. and I could line this. So I'm putting this near. I can move the temporary tape now because I know that's where my starting point was going to be. And I'm just going to bring this towards me, sorry, so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. So, as I said, I've gone for an extra strong adhesive. There's lots out there on the market. I'm using like an Aleene's Fast Grab Super Tacky glue, but a gel medium would work equally as well. A Mod Podge would work. Any of those. And I'm just going to make sure everything's pushed down. Okay, we've got that there. And I decided that this one was going to go next. So what I need to do is I need to put some glue on the sides. So I'm using my temporary tape again because I find it easier than marking. And that is now a visual clue to me that I don't want the glue to go any further than that point there. If it's, you know, use washi, I mean, if you prefer to use pencil, just use your pencil and things like that. So, right, so I need to put glue along the whole of the bottom, which is what I'm doing. Sorry if I'm doing this out of camera. So I'm just putting the glue along the bottom there. Now I'm doing it in dollops because I can then make it quite high in places and it squidges. And then I'm going to put some glue that I know I need to put some glue along this bit here because these two bits are going to join. As I said, if you prefer to use a gel medium, use the glue that you know that you would for 3D construction, that you know that works for you, because we all have our preferences, our go-tos, as it were. Right, so I'm just putting the lid on, and I'm just lining this one up against the line on the side, the back here that I did, and just moving it slightly. Sorry if my hands are in the way. It's just obviously I need to see what I'm doing. I've got that there. And it's got that there. So I'm just going to grab a clip just to hold that in place. Like that. And bone folder. Then just take my bone folder and make sure everything is touching the layer below. So I've got two in place now. So we're creating that look. So as I said, you could create these so they look like, but sorry, the book is coming away now because I've lifted it up. So you could put, you know, think along the front that you want to do. I've gone for quite a plain look at the moment. Okay, so I need to make sure everything's just kept down. That's too big. Is this going to fit in? Sorry, I'm looking to see what I've got that would fit inside, just to hold that part down. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to hold that part down so it's glue, you know, it's got a little bit of weight on there. So I'm going to do the same with the next one. Let's take that temporary tape away. Right, so that's everything stuck in place. Just need to make sure this back panel, which I'm going to squidge a bit and play with, is a little bit straighter. That one's not stuck down yet, which is me playing. But that now is all my little books all in a row. So I'm just going to leave these to actually dry properly. It shouldn't take long, and then we'll look to cutting, you know, covering the back with the different panels, and I'll make a decision whether I'm going to do the papers, or I actually quite fancy still painting them. You know, when you go, I don't know, but I'll let them dry and then see from there, and I'll be back as soon as they're all dry. Okay, so what I decided to do in the end for the back was, I was going to cut strips and cut them, but then I decided I'd do something different. So I made myself a template from a scrap of card. All I did was rest a piece of card against the back and drew round it. So I made myself a template, and I then cut it out from the same cardboard that I've been using to create, you know, all the different shapes and everything like that. And I've covered it with a piece of card and just added the little bits of wax. Sorry, it's not in camera. Added the little bits of wax around the outside. So now from the back, it looks like one, you know, continuous piece, and the same then from the front. So now that's the top view, and that's the view, you know, like looking down on it. It's really quite hard to show you this. I need to have a camera set up at the sides now so I can, you know, tilt it and show. So I've got everything. So that's my little containers, and I thought it would make an unusual gift. Now, you could have all of them the same size. I've done mine a little bit hickledy-pickledy. Now what I want to do is go away and decorate them. I'm going to live with it for a little while, because I've die cut myself quite a few die cuts from my Shady Designs, and I've got little ones that go like that, you know, with banners that I can add in. I've die cut ones that, oh, like I said, I die cut loads. I've got ones that got like the little circles in there. This, I thought I could you know, chop down one or two of those and actually edge with the gilding mousse, the whipped mousse, in the same colour or even in the green, and add one or two of those in as well to decorate. I'm not sure I'm going to put any sentiments or anything like that as well. I'm not quite sure. But one thing I did find when I was rooting around in my drawers was I bought ages and ages ago some notebooks from a cheap clothing store. I think it was something like, you got 5 for something like, it was in a sale for £2.50 or something like that. And it was like my to-do list: sooner, floating, later. It goes on both sides. So I thought I could decorate this up, and I've got a spare bit of paper that matches in. I can decorate this up so it all matches in, even maybe do some of the gilding mousse around the outside of it and add a few of the die cuts. But then, let's just move you so I don't lose you. It then fits perfectly in the pocket, so I could make it a stationary part. I'm just going to add some, I love pens and stuff like that, but I can now make it so it could have a few pens in as well. I love my clips. So, you know, I've got my clips here that can become part of it, you know, and build it up. What I also did was, you get A5 cards in one of the, I think it's a Clean Inkings by Shady Designs, and I need to decorate them up. But I've just folded them, cut them out, and just folded them in half. I'll go and grab the envelopes, and I'll decorate these up as notelets, and that could even sit in there with the matching envelopes. So it's a different way to create a handmade gift for someone. you know, using lots of items that we've probably got in our stash from our die cuts. Like I said, I found those in a drawer, and decorate it up with the person's name. But it's like a piece of home decor, so you could put anything inside there. Use up scraps, grab your scraps of papers, grab up, you know, everything. What I'll do is I will finish and decorate this off. As I said, I'm going to leave and live with it for a little bit just to see where I want to take the decoration. But what I will do is I will put loads of photographs of what I do, including the cards, envelopes and everything like that, over on my blog, and I'll list my blog below so you can see what my finishing bits was. If I get a chance before I edit the video, I might take a little walkthrough video, but I won't promise that because I'm being honest, I'll probably forget. Also, Dolly Dimples Crafts, who are the suppliers, who makers of the living hinge, well, they're not the makers, they came up with the design that they wanted for the die, have kindly given me a discount code to share with you. So the discount code is below in the description box, you know, which you can use on their website, as well as a link to their website. If I remember when I'm editing, I will try and flash it up as well at the same time. So thanks ever so much. Please do pop over to everybody else who's involved and see their handmade gift ideas, you know, their idea of how we celebrate, you know, everything handmade. You know, and lots of lovely ideas. I've listed again everybody in the description box. Right, I think that's loads and loads of waffling off me. Thank you ever so much for joining in and for your time today. Love to see what you make handmade, not necessarily this. Love to see, just tag me or leave a comment, because I love it when we can all inspire each other. Again, thank you ever so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care.